Hello and welcome. My name is Meepolis, they, she, he, and this is Literally Graphic. And this week's Manga Monday is going just a step sideways, and we are going to be looking at My Beijing, 4 Stories of Everyday Wonder by Ni Jun, a comic creator in China. I would think this counts as a manhua title, but I didn't see it categorized as such across English language marketplaces. This could be a deliberate choice beyond my understanding, or could just speak to how small the manhua category is. It's fairly universally described as a middle grade read, originally published in 2016. This American edition was published in 2018 by Graphic Universe, translated by Edward Galvin. Content notes for human bullying and torturing bugs/insects. Apologies in advance for my bad pronunciations. Looking at Ni Jun's profile at the back of the book, quote, born in 1975 in Xingning in the province of Qinghai, China, he began drawing at an early age by copying Linhunha, traditional Chinese palm-sized picture books of sequential art. He soon became a fan of Osamu Tezuka, Jean Leping, and black and white pirated editions of Tintin. As a teenager, he won a contest sponsored by Comics Magazine and had his drawings published for the first time. Later, he was deeply influenced by the range of works within the Chinese comic scene, as well as by Japanese artists Akira Toriyama and Katsuro Otomo, not to mention Mobius, the French cartoonist Jean Giraud. In 1995, he began to publish his art in magazines. He lives in Beijing and teaches drawing to university students. End quote. What kinds of keywords came to mind reading this short story collection? Magical realism, grandfather-granddaughter, nostalgia, family, and color. The summary up on Goodreads is, quote, Yue and her grandpa live in a small neighborhood in Beijing, and it's full of big personalities. There's a story around every corner, and each day has a hint of magic. In one tale, Yue wants to swim in the Special Olympics, a sports competition for people with disabilities, but she and her grandpa don't have a pool. Their trick to help Yue practice wows the whole neighborhood. In another story, a friend takes Yue to a wild place full of musical insects. Later, Yue hears a special story about her grandparents. And in the final story, Yue and her grandpa show a cranky painter the sweet side of life. End quote. The art is really very beautiful. Flipping through, even the 1- and 2-star reviews of My Beijing on Goodreads generally complimented the art. The texture of the colors also makes it stand out in stark contrast to most other comics I've read from the region. The writing seemed to be the thing that some people took more issue with, although there are plenty of positive thoughts on the story and writing. The magical realism caught a lot of people off guard, thus resulting in it being spoiled for me well in advance, not that I cared about such things. The writing and the way that Jun frames it is highly nostalgic, which can be both good and bad in my opinion. Gender and sexuality felt pretty standard hetero and binary, although the loving grandfather-granddaughter dynamic softens everything. Race was largely ignored. Class felt implicated in many ways. From my reading, Jun appears to be reaching nostalgically for a simpler, less shiny, and urban time. Yue and her grandpa don't appear to have much, but they make do and seem to be happy. Again, this can be a bit of a double-edged sword. I lean a bit more towards a positive celebration of hardworking and creative people who aren't that successful, but we can't let these rose-colored glasses negate the real hardships that people are overcoming, if that makes sense. I don't know. Jun centers disability in these stories much more than what I'm generally used to. Was this representation positive? I don't know, and I haven't seen anything commenting directly on this. I speculate that it's fair to positive based on my ongoing research into disability justice and representation overall, minus the fact that it's always potentially hard to read a book that includes bullying, especially if you feel a kinship with the person being bullied. The element that seems to be pointing towards decent representation is that overall Yue is not cured. The brief magic that gets closest to doing so does not render her suddenly a standard able-bodied person. She simply is granted more mobility, but in her own way. Otherwise, Yue and her grandfather have a comfortable way of going about life, taking their limitations into account. Returning again to the grandfather and granddaughter dynamic, this age combo felt sweet and something I generally don't read about, although this might be more due to me generally not reading children's books rather than being super unique, really. We also see a pretty diverse swath of body types represented throughout. I think I'm going to lean towards a 4 out of 5 stars, at least for now. What do you think? Bye y'all, keep reading an organized and capitalist oppression. And Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, an Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.